How I reclaimed my happiness after a wild and difficult divorce. At 35 years old, Maria sat on the edge of her bed, staring blankly at the wall. The morning sun poured through the window, casting warm light across the room, but it did little to brighten her mood. Her life had become a series of routines, filled with a humdrum of daily responsibilities, and she felt trapped in a cycle that seemed impossible to break. As a devoted wife and mother of two, Maria had poured her heart and soul into her family, yet she found herself feeling increasingly lonely and unfulfilled. Maria had married David shortly after college, believing in the fairy tale of love that had been ingrained in her since childhood. Their early years were filled with laughter, adventures, and a shared vision for the future. They had dreamed of a family filled with joy, where they would support each other through thick and thin. However, as the years passed, the passion that once ignited their relationship began to fade. The couple who had once danced in the kitchen, carefree and in love, now barely exchanged words without the children present. As she looked around the room, Maria couldn't help but feel a wave of nostalgia wash over her. The photos on the walls depicted moments of happiness, family vacations, birthday celebrations, and holiday gatherings. Yet, those memories now felt like distant echoes of a happier time. The stark reality of their current situation was that the intimacy and connection she had once cherished with David had eroded, leaving a chasm filled with silence and misunderstanding. Maria had tried to reach out to David, to rekindle the spark that had brought them together, but each attempt felt futile. Their conversations had devolved into mundane exchanges about household chores, school schedules, and the never-ending list of responsibilities that came with parenting. The warmth of their love had been replaced by a sense of obligation, and Maria often found herself yearning for the emotional connection they had once shared. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of juggling work and the demands of raising two young children, Maria lay in bed wide awake. David had fallen asleep beside her, oblivious to her turmoil. She could hear his steady breathing, a reminder of the man she had once loved so deeply. But now, as she lay there staring at the ceiling, she felt a heaviness in her heart that was hard to ignore. The thoughts swirling in her mind became more pronounced. What had gone wrong? How had they drifted so far apart? Maria thought back to the moments when they had first met. The excitement, the butterflies in her stomach, the sense of belonging. It was as if those feelings had been buried under the weight of life's responsibilities. As the days turned into weeks, Maria found herself increasingly withdrawn. She poured her energy into her work and her children, trying to fill the void that had formed between her and David. But the more she focused on the external, the more she felt the internal emptiness grow. Friends would comment on how well she managed to keep everything together, but inside, she felt like a house of cards, ready to collapse at any moment. On a particularly difficult day, Maria found herself sitting on a park bench while her children played in the distance. The laughter and joy of the kids filled the air, but it felt like a world away. She watched as they chased each other, their innocence and happiness a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside her. In that moment, Maria realized she had been so consumed with maintaining appearances that she had neglected her own emotional well-being. It was a wake-up call. Maria knew she needed to take action, but she wasn't sure where to begin. The thought of confronting David about their relationship filled her with dread. What if he didn't feel the same way? What if he dismissed her concerns? The fear of vulnerability held her back, but she understood that something had to change. After weeks of internal struggle, Maria mustered the courage to approach the topic with David. One evening, after the children were asleep, she sat across from him at the dining table, her heart racing. "David, can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked up from his phone, surprised by the seriousness in her tone. "Sure, what's on your mind?" he replied, setting the device down. Taking a deep breath, Maria began to express her feelings. "I've been feeling really disconnected from you lately. It's like we're living parallel lives and I miss you." "I miss us." David's brow furrowed, and he shifted in his seat. "I didn't realize you felt that way. I thought everything was okay," he he said, his voice tinged with confusion. Everything is not okay, David. We're just going through the motions, and I don't want to keep pretending. I want to talk about our relationship and what we can do to fix it, Maria said, her voice steady despite the nerves coursing through her. A silence enveloped the room, and Maria could see the gears turning in David's mind. He was processing her words, and she could sense his reluctance to engage in the difficult conversation. I don't know, Maria. Life is busy, and we have the kids to think about. Maybe this is just a phase, he replied, dismissing her concerns. That response stung more than she expected. Maria felt a mix of frustration and sadness wash over her. It's not just a phase, David. I need you to understand that this is serious. If we don't address it now, I'm afraid it will only get worse, she pleaded. I hear you, but I don't think we should make any rash decisions, he said, his tone defensive. We've been through a lot together. Maybe we just need to give it time. The conversation ended without resolution, leaving Maria feeling defeated. She realized then that the cracks in their foundation were deeper than she had thought. If David was unwilling to acknowledge the issues, she would have to take matters into her own hands. As the days passed, Maria continued to reflect on her feelings. She found solace in journaling, pouring her heart onto the pages and exploring her emotions. Writing became a therapeutic outlet, allowing her to untangle the web of thoughts that clouded her mind. Each entry brought clarity and a sense of empowerment. With each passing day, Maria recognized that she could no longer ignore her own needs. The love she had once felt for David began to transform into something different, an understanding that her happiness depended on her own actions. She started to envision a life where she could thrive, independent of the emotional turmoil that had consumed her for so long. While the thought of divorce felt daunting, Maria understood that it might be the necessary step toward reclaiming her life. She began to research options, exploring resources and support groups for individuals going through similar struggles. It was a step into the unknown, but Maria felt a growing sense of determination to find her voice again. That determination fueled her as she made plans for the future. She sought counseling to help navigate her emotions and develop coping strategies. With the support of a therapist, she began to gain insight into her feelings and learned how to communicate effectively both with herself and with David. As the weeks turned into months, Maria's resolve solidified. She knew she had to confront the reality of her situation, to take the steps necessary for her own well-being. While the journey ahead would be challenging, she felt empowered by the knowledge that she was finally prioritizing herself. As the days blurred into weeks, Maria found herself navigating a labyrinth of emotions. The ache in her heart was persistent, a constant reminder of the love that had once flourished between her and David. She tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for the sake of their children, but inside, she felt like she was slowly unraveling. The cracks in her marriage were no longer something she could ignore, and the pressure to keep everything together was beginning to take its toll. One afternoon, while the children napped, Maria decided to take a walk to clear her head. The fresh air felt invigorating, a stark contrast to the suffocating feelings she had been grappling with. As she strolled through the neighborhood, she noticed how the world continued to spin around her, blissfully unaware of her internal struggles. The laughter of children playing in the park nearby pierced through her thoughts, and she felt a pang of longing for the days when laughter filled her own home. With each step, Maria reflected on the love she had for David, but it felt like a love buried under layers of disappointment and neglect. The conversations they used to share, the dreams, the laughter, the simple joy of being together, had been replaced by silence and resentment. She missed the intimacy they once had, the connection that made her feel alive. That evening, as she prepared dinner, Maria found herself lost in thought. She could hear David in the other room, his voice raised as he spoke on the phone. She paused, taking a moment to listen. The familiar tone of his voice made her heart ache, but she also felt a growing sense of frustration. Why couldn't he hear her? Why couldn't he see how deeply his actions had affected their family? As dinner simmered on the stove, Maria decided she couldn't keep quiet any longer. It was time to address the growing distance between them. After dinner, she mustered the courage to approach him. "David, can we talk for a minute?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He looked up from his phone, surprise evident in his eyes. "Sure, what's up?" he replied, setting the device down. Maria took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her emotions rise to the surface. "I've been feeling really disconnected lately. I think it's important that we talk about our relationship and how things have been between us." David's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness. "What do you mean? I thought everything was fine." "We're busy, Maria. The kids and work take up so much time." "Fine. It hasn't felt fine for a while." Maria pressed, her heart racing. "I miss you. I miss us. We can't just keep going through the motions and pretend everything is okay. I need more from this relationship." He sighed, clearly frustrated. "What do you want me to say?" "We're in a rut, sure, but it's not the end of the world. Maybe we just need to give it time." Time. Maria felt her frustration bubbling over. "We've already given it time, David. I need to know that you care about our relationship. I want to know if you still love me or if you've given up on us." The room fell silent as David stared at her, caught off guard by the intensity of her words. "I do love you, Maria. I don't know what you want me to do," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want you to be honest with me. If there's something going on, if you're unhappy, I need you to tell me," Maria urged, her heart pounding in her chest. "We can't fix this if we're not open with each other." David ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that signaled his stress. "I don't know how to fix this. Maybe we just need to wait until things get better," he said, his tone evasive. "I can't wait anymore," Maria replied, her voice trembling with emotion. "I feel like I'm losing you, and it terrifies me. I need to know you're still in this with me." David looked away, and Maria felt her heart sink. She could sense the distance between them widening, an invisible wall that seemed insurmountable. The conversation had taken a turn she hadn't anticipated, and she realized that they were standing on the brink of something significant. After their conversation, Maria found herself feeling more confused than ever. She wanted to believe that David would step up and meet her where she needed him, but the uncertainty of their future loomed large. As she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she felt the tears begin to flow. What had happened to the love that had once felt so strong? Where had the passion gone? As the tears streamed down her face, Maria felt an overwhelming sense of loss, not just for her relationship, but for the woman she used to be. The vibrant, joyful woman who had dreams and aspirations had been buried under the weight of disappointment. The following days were a blur of emotions. Maria oscillated between anger and sadness, struggling to find her footing in a world that felt increasingly unstable. She poured herself into her children, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy in their lives while grappling with her own turmoil. But even their laughter and joy felt bittersweet, a reminder of the happiness that seemed just out of reach. Maria began to question everything: her marriage, her choices, and her own identity. Was she really willing to continue living in a relationship that felt so unfulfilling? As the days turned into weeks, she realized that she could no longer ignore her feelings. The time had come to confront the reality of her situation. One evening, as she sat on the couch with her children, she glanced at David, who was engrossed in a movie. A wave of longing washed over her as she watched him. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap between them, but the fear of rejection held her back. Instead, she felt a sense of resignation creeping in. That night, after putting the children to bed, Maria found herself sitting at the kitchen table, her journal open in front of her. She began to write, pouring out her heart onto the pages. The act of writing became cathartic, allowing her to process her emotions and confront the reality she had been avoiding. "I feel lost," she wrote. "I don't know who I am anymore. I miss the woman I used to be, full of dreams and hopes. I don't want to keep pretending that everything is okay when it's not." As she continued to write, Maria realized that her marriage had become a source of pain rather than joy. She was tired of feeling invisible and unappreciated. The realization was like a light bulb flickering on in the darkness. She needed to take control of her life. The following day, as she stood in front of the mirror, Maria made a commitment to herself. No longer would she allow fear and uncertainty to dictate her choices. She would seek support, explore her feelings, and ultimately prioritize her happiness. With a newfound determination, she reached out to a therapist, eager to explore her emotions in a safe space. The process would take time, but Maria was ready to embrace the journey of self-discovery. As she stepped into this new chapter of her life, Maria felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but she also understood that she was not alone. With every step, she would learn to navigate the complexities of her emotions and reclaim her sense of self. The days following Maria's commitment to herself felt both invigorating and terrifying. She woke each morning with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to navigate the emotional landscape of her life with clarity and strength. The process of unpacking her feelings about her marriage to David was daunting, but with each day that passed, she felt more empowered to confront the reality of her situation. Maria had begun attending therapy sessions regularly, where she could openly express her thoughts and emotions without fear of judgment. Her therapist, Dr. Reynolds, was a kind and understanding woman who encouraged Maria to explore her feelings deeply. "You are in a period of transformation," Dr. Reynolds said one afternoon. "It's important to allow yourself to feel everything, the anger, the sadness, but also the hope for a brighter future." With each session, Maria found herself peeling back the layers of her emotions. She spoke about her feelings of loneliness and betrayal, the sense of loss that accompanied her marriage, and the fears that held her captive. "I feel like I've lost myself in this marriage," she confessed one day, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't even recognize the woman I used to be." Dr. Reynolds nodded empathetically. That's a common experience for many people in long-term relationships, especially when they face challenges. You have to remember that your identity is not solely tied to your role as a wife and mother. You are a whole person with your own dreams and desires. Those words struck a chord within Maria. She began to reflect on the things she had sacrificed for her marriage and family. As the weeks went by, she recognized that her happiness had been pushed aside for far too long. With each therapy session, she felt a sense of liberation, as if she were finally breaking free from the chains that had bound her. One evening, after a particularly insightful session, Maria returned home with a newfound sense of clarity. As she entered the house, she could hear the familiar sounds of her children playing in the living room. The sight of them filled her heart with warmth. But it also brought forth the painful realization that she needed to prioritize her own happiness for their sake as well. She wanted to model a life of fulfillment and joy, one that didn't revolve around fear or dissatisfaction. That night, as she prepared dinner, Maria mentally rehearsed what she would say to David when the time came to confront him again. She had been avoiding the conversation for weeks, but she knew that in order to move forward, she had to lay everything on the table. The decision to leave would not be easy, but she understood that it was necessary for her emotional well-being. After dinner, as the children settled into their bedtime routine, Maria felt her heart race with apprehension. She could see David in the living room, scrolling through his phone, unaware of a storm brewing inside her. Taking a deep breath, she approached him, her palms slightly sweaty. "David, can we talk?" she asked, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. He looked up, surprise evident in his eyes. "Sure, what's going on?" He set his phone down, giving her his full attention. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about us, our marriage, and how we've been living," she began, her heart pounding. "I need to share my feelings with you, because I can't keep pretending everything is okay." David's expression shifted, and she could see the concern in his eyes. "Okay, I'm listening," he replied, his tone cautious. Maria took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. I feel like we've been drifting apart for a long time. I've tried to address it, but I feel like you're not really hearing me. I'm lonely, David. I miss the connection we used to have. He frowned, visibly taken aback. I didn't realize you felt that way. I thought we were just busy with life, he said, defensive. It's more than just being busy, Maria insisted. I need more from this relationship. I can't keep going through the motions. I want to know if you still love me, if you're committed to making this work. Silence hung heavy in the air as David shifted in his seat. Maria watched as he struggled to find the right words, and she felt the weight of her own emotions pressing down on her. I don't know, Maria. I feel like we've both changed. Life has gotten in the way, he finally admitted. That's just it, David. We can't allow life to overshadow our relationship. I feel like I've lost myself in this marriage, and I'm at a point where I can't ignore it anymore, she said, her voice rising with intensity. David's eyes widened in realization, and Maria could see that he was beginning to understand the gravity of the situation. Are you saying you want to leave? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Maria hesitated, feeling her heart race. The weight of that question hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. I'm saying that I need to consider what's best for me. I've reached a point where I can't keep sacrificing my happiness for the sake of a relationship that feels broken. David looked away, clearly processing her words. Maria felt a mix of sadness and relief. She had finally spoken her truth, but it was painful to watch the man she once loved struggle to accept it. I didn't mean for things to get to this point, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought we could get through this together. I want to believe that, but I can't keep living in uncertainty, Maria replied, tears welling in her eyes. I need to prioritize my own well-being. I have to think about what's best for our children, too. I don't want them to grow up in a household filled with tension and resentment. David sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. I understand, Maria. I really do. I just wish I could turn back time and fix everything. Me too, she whispered, her heart aching for the love they once shared. But we can't keep holding on to something that isn't working. I need to explore the possibility of a new life for myself. The conversation ended without resolution, but Maria felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She had finally voiced her truth, and while the future was uncertain, she knew she had taken an important step in reclaiming her life. In the days that followed, Maria grappled with her emotions. There were moments of doubt, fear of the unknown, and sadness for the family life she had envisioned. However, there were also moments of strength, clarity, and determination. She realized that she had the power to create a future that aligned with her needs and desires. That weekend, Maria decided to visit a local bookstore, seeking solace in the pages of novels that had once captivated her. As she wandered through the aisles, she came across a section on personal development and self-help. The titles called to her, offering insights into healing, self-discovery, and empowerment. She picked up a book titled The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown and felt an immediate connection. As she read the back cover, the message of embracing vulnerability and authenticity resonated deeply within her. With a sense of purpose, she purchased the book, eager to delve into its pages and uncover the wisdom within. Later that evening, as she settled into her favorite reading nook, Maria opened the book and began to read. With each page, she felt a sense of validation for the emotions she had been experiencing. The words spoke to her heart, urging her to embrace her imperfections and recognize her worth. That night, Maria felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She realized that her journey of self-discovery was just beginning, and while the road ahead would be challenging, she was ready to face it head-on. She understood that the decision to leave would not be easy, but it was a necessary step toward reclaiming her life and finding her own happiness. The days following Maria's heartfelt conversation with David felt surreal. She had finally voiced her truth, but now reality set in, and she grappled with the enormity of her decision. The emotional fallout was palpable, lingering in the air like a heavy fog. Maria moved through her days with a sense of uncertainty, the weight of her words still echoing in her mind. As she navigated the complexities of her family life, Maria was hyper-aware of the atmosphere in their home. David seemed to be in a state of denial, often avoiding deep conversations and filling the silence with mundane chatter about daily routines. While he still engaged with their children, Maria noticed a subtle shift in his demeanor, a protective layer of distance that felt impenetrable. It was as if he was trying to shield himself from the reality of their situation. Maria continued to put on a brave face for the sake of their children, but inside, she felt like a ship lost at sea. The emotional turmoil left her feeling drained. Every time she caught sight of David, a pang of sadness washed over her, reminding her of the love they once shared. How had they drifted so far apart? The love that had brought them together now felt like a ghost haunting their every interaction. One afternoon, while folding laundry, Maria overheard David on the phone with a friend. "I don't know how she can just throw everything away," he said, frustration evident in his voice. "We've been through so much together. I thought we were fine." The words cut through Maria like a knife. They shattered the illusion that their issues could simply be swept under the rug. She felt an overwhelming rush of emotions, anger, sadness, and a sense of betrayal. He was still in denial about the state of their marriage, unwilling to confront the deeper issues that had caused the rift between them. That evening, Maria gathered her children for a family movie night, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. As they settled on the couch, she looked at their smiling faces and felt a bittersweet pang in her heart. She wanted to create joyful memories for them, even amidst the chaos of her own emotions. As the movie played, Maria couldn't focus. Her mind was racing with thoughts of her future and the impending reality of a divorce. She felt a profound sense of loss, not just for her marriage, but for the family life she had envisioned. The laughter of her children rang in her ears, but it also served as a painful reminder of the uncertainty that lay ahead. After the movie ended and the children went to bed, Maria found herself sitting alone in the living room. The quietness of the house felt oppressive, and she could feel the weight of her emotions pressing down on her. It was time to confront David again. Taking a deep breath, she approached him as he sat on the couch, his attention fixed on the television. "David, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady but tinged with apprehension. He looked up, surprise crossing his face. "About what?" he replied, shifting his attention away from the screen. "It's about us and what's happening between us," Maria began, feeling a surge of determination. "I can't keep living in this limbo. We need to address the fallout from our conversation the other day." David sighed, rubbing his temples as if trying to stave off a headache. "Can't we just give it time? I feel like we're just going in circles," he said, defensiveness creeping into his tone. "No, we can't," Maria insisted, feeling frustration bubbling to the surface. "Ignoring the problems won't make them go away. I need to know how you really feel about our relationship." For a moment, David looked away, his gaze drifting toward the window. Maria could see the internal struggle on his face. "I don't want to lose you," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't know how to fix this." The vulnerability in his words softened her heart, but it also fueled her resolve. "We can't fix it if we don't acknowledge the issues. I feel like I'm losing myself in this marriage. I can't keep sacrificing my happiness." David's expression shifted from defensiveness to something resembling understanding. "I never wanted to hurt you. I just thought we could work through this," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "I know you didn't mean to hurt me," Maria replied gently, her heart aching for the man she once loved. "But we have to face the reality of our situation. I'm starting to think that maybe it's time for us to consider separation." The word separation hung in the air like a heavy weight. David's eyes widened in shock, and Maria felt her heart race. She knew that saying it out loud made it all the more real, but she also understood that it was a necessary step in her journey. "I can't believe you're saying this," he said, his voice trembling. "Is that really what you want?" "I don't want this to be the end, but I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not, Maria said, tears welling in her eyes. I need time to find myself again. I need to explore what life looks like without the pain of our current situation. David looked down, his expression a mix of sadness and resignation. I don't want to lose you, Maria. I don't want our family to fall apart, he said, his voice breaking. Maria reached out and placed a hand on his. Neither do I, but we have to be honest with ourselves. If we continue down this path, we'll only cause each other more pain, she replied, her voice steady. In that moment, Maria felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She realized that taking a step back might provide the space they both needed to reflect on their relationship. It was painful to consider, but she knew it could also be a catalyst for growth. Over the next few days, Maria began to prepare for the possibility of separation. She sought legal advice, gathering information about the process and what it would mean for her and her children. The thought of divorce felt daunting, but she also felt a growing sense of empowerment as she took control of her life. She spent evenings journaling her thoughts, exploring her emotions, and mapping out what her life could look like beyond the marriage. Each entry became a testament to her journey, a way to articulate her fears and hopes. Maria realized that she was reclaiming her narrative, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of direction. As the days turned into weeks, Maria made a conscious effort to remain present for her children. She wanted to ensure that they felt secure and loved, despite the changes occurring in their lives. Maria organized family activities, creating moments of joy and connection, all while wrestling with the decisions that loomed ahead. One afternoon, while sitting at the kitchen table, Maria decided to share her thoughts with her children. I want you both to know that Mommy and Daddy are going through some changes. We love you very much, and that will never change, she said, her voice gentle but firm. Her children looked at her with wide eyes, sensing the weight of her words. Are you and Daddy fighting? Her daughter, Lily, asked, her voice small and uncertain. No, sweetheart, we're not fighting. But sometimes grown-ups need to make decisions about what's best for them, Maria replied, choosing her words carefully. It's okay to feel a little confused, but I want you to know that you are loved, no matter what. As the weeks passed, Maria began to visualize her life post-separation. She pictured herself finding joy in her passions, reconnecting with friends, and ultimately rediscovering her own identity. While the road ahead was uncertain, Maria felt empowered by the knowledge that she had taken control of her life. One evening, as she sat on the couch with a cup of tea, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that the journey wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The decision to leave may have been painful, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, self-discovery, and the promise of a brighter future. With every passing day, Maria felt a little stronger, a little more in tune with herself. She had taken the first steps toward reclaiming her happiness, and as she embraced the possibilities that awaited her, she knew she was finally ready to pursue a life that was authentically her own. As Maria stepped into the next phase of her life, she faced the complex reality of co-parenting with David. The decision to separate was not just a personal transformation. It also meant reshaping their family dynamics in a way that would protect their children's emotional well-being. Maria felt a blend of anxiety and determination as she navigated this uncharted territory. In the early days after the decision, the atmosphere at home was fraught with tension. Maria and David had agreed on the necessity of co-parenting for the sake of their children, but the emotions surrounding their separation often clouded their interactions. While they tried to maintain a united front for the kids, unspoken resentment and unresolved feelings lingered just beneath the surface. Maria vividly remembered the first week of their new arrangement. She had taken the children to a nearby park for an afternoon of fun. Watching Lily and Jake play on the swings, she felt a mixture of happiness and sadness. Their laughter echoed through the air, and for a moment, Maria felt a sense of normalcy. But that sense of peace was short-lived, as memories of the life they had built together and the love that had faded came flooding back. Later that evening, as she tucked the children into bed, Maria felt a weight in her chest. She wanted to provide them with a sense of security, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that accompanied her new role as a co-parent. Would they understand? Would they feel abandoned? The questions loomed large, and she hoped she was making the right choices. After the kids were asleep, Maria sat down with David to discuss their co-parenting plan. She needed to set some boundaries to ensure that they both remained on the same page. "David, we need to talk about how we're going to handle things moving forward," she said, her voice steady but firm. He nodded, his expression serious. "I agree. I want to make this as smooth as possible for the kids. First and foremost, I think we need to establish a schedule for the children. They should know when they'll be with each of us," Maria suggested. "Routine is important for them, especially during this transition." David rubbed the back of his neck, contemplating her words. "That makes sense. I want them to feel secure, too. What do you think about a week on, week off arrangement? Let's try that and see how it goes." "We can adjust if needed," Maria replied, feeling a flicker of hope at the prospect of working together. As they continued to discuss logistics, Maria felt a sense of relief. They were finally communicating openly, setting the groundwork for a new way of living. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. However, she also knew that co-parenting would require continuous effort and dedication. In the days that followed, Maria focused on establishing a routine for their children. She wanted them to have a sense of normalcy amidst the changes in their lives. Each week, she would plan fun activities for their time together, baking cookies, going to the zoo, or having movie nights. Maria understood that these moments of joy were essential for the children to feel loved and secure. Yet, navigating co-parenting wasn't without its challenges. One evening, Maria received a text from David about a scheduling conflict. "Hey, I have to work late on Thursday. Can we switch the kids' schedule this week?" Maria felt a familiar knot tighten in her stomach. It was moments like these that reminded her of the emotional weight of their situation. "David, we agreed to keep things consistent for the kids. They need stability right now," she replied, trying to keep her tone even. "I know, but work is crazy right now." "I can't help it," he responded, the frustration evident in his words. Maria took a deep breath, reminding herself that their conversations didn't have to devolve into arguments. "I understand, but let's stick to the schedule as much as possible. If we start changing things around, it might confuse them," she replied gently. After a brief pause, David responded, "Okay, you're right. I'll make sure to be there for them on Thursday. Thanks for understanding." As she put her phone down, Maria felt a mix of relief and concern. While they had managed to communicate effectively this time, she knew there would be other challenges ahead. Each interaction was a delicate dance of balancing their emotional needs while prioritizing the well-being of their children. As the weeks turned into months, Maria found herself growing more comfortable in her role as a co-parent. She began to establish boundaries that allowed her to focus on her own well-being while still being an attentive mother. However, there were moments of doubt when the pain of their past surfaced. One afternoon, as she was preparing dinner, Maria found herself reminiscing about the family traditions they had once shared. The holidays had always been a time of joy, filled with laughter and celebration. Now, those memories felt bittersweet, a reminder of what had been lost. That evening, she decided to share her feelings with David. "You know, I've been thinking about the holidays coming up," she began cautiously. "I want to make sure we create a positive experience for the kids." David looked up, curiosity evident on his face. "What do you have in mind?" "I think it's important for us to establish some traditions together, even as co-parents. The kids deserve to have those memories, and we should find a way to celebrate without the tension between us," Maria suggested, her heart racing at the thought of working together again. David nodded thoughtfully. "I agree. They should have the best of both worlds. Let's plan some activities they'll enjoy." As they began brainstorming ideas, Maria felt a sense of hope bloom within her. The thought of working collaboratively for the sake of their children reminded her that they could still create positive memories, despite the challenges of their situation. As the holidays approached, Maria focused on creating a warm and inviting atmosphere in her home. She decorated the house with lights and ornaments, eager to instill a sense of joy and excitement in her children. She involved them in the process, allowing them to choose decorations and make cookies for Santa. It felt fulfilling to create a loving environment, one where they could build new memories together. On the day of their first holiday celebration, Maria woke up early, filled with anticipation. She had planned a day full of activities, baking cookies, watching holiday movies, and playing games. As she watched her children laugh and enjoy themselves, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. This was what she had longed for, joyful moments shared with her kids. Later that evening, as they gathered around the table for dinner, Maria felt a sense of warmth enveloping her. David joined them, and the atmosphere was surprisingly lighthearted. They shared stories, reminisced about the past, and engaged in playful banter, all while focusing on their children. Maria felt a glimmer of hope, recognizing that they could coexist peacefully, at least for this moment. However, beneath the surface, Maria knew that the road ahead would still be challenging. While they had managed to navigate co-parenting effectively, the emotional baggage of their past was ever present. The healing process would take time, and she understood that it was essential to remain vigilant about her own well-being. As the evening came to a close, Maria tucked her children into bed. Feeling a sense of fulfillment, she sat in the quiet of her home, reflecting on the day. The laughter, the love, and the memories they had created reminded her that even in the face of adversity, there was still beauty to be found. In that moment, Maria felt a renewed sense of purpose. Co-parenting might not be easy, but she was ready to embrace the challenges ahead. She had taken significant steps toward reclaiming her happiness, and she was determined to continue navigating this journey with resilience and grace. As winter gave way to spring, Maria felt the landscape of her life shift once again. The snow had melted, and the world outside her window was beginning to bloom. The vibrant colors of spring mirrored the transformation she was undergoing. With each passing day, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and strength, pushing aside the remnants of her old life to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. With the help of therapy and the support group she had been attending, Maria began to rediscover her identity outside of her marriage. Each session with Dr. Reynolds brought new insights, and she found herself gaining clarity about her desires and dreams. No longer did she want to merely exist. She wanted to thrive. The journey of self-discovery became a focal point in her life, and with every step forward, she felt more empowered. One sunny afternoon, as she sat in her favorite cafe with her journal, Maria took a moment to reflect. She sipped her coffee, savoring the rich flavor while jotting down her thoughts. "I am worthy of love and happiness," she wrote, her pen gliding across the page. "I deserve to chase my dreams." The act of writing became a form of therapy, a way for her to affirm her newfound beliefs and document her journey. As Maria embraced this new chapter, she also focused on her personal interests. She enrolled in a painting class at a local community center, excited to reconnect with her passion for art. Painting had always been a form of expression for her, and she longed to immerse herself in creativity once again. The thought of picking up a brush and letting her imagination flow felt exhilarating. On the first day of class, Maria walked into the studio, her heart racing with anticipation. The walls were adorned with vibrant paintings, and the air was filled with the scent of paint and canvas. She introduced herself to the instructor and the other students, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. This was a space where she could be free to create, free to express herself without judgment. As the weeks went by, Maria found joy in the process of creating. She explored different techniques and styles, allowing her emotions to guide her brushstrokes. Each painting became a reflection of her journey, capturing the highs and lows, the triumphs and struggles. She reveled in the freedom of self-expression, finding solace in the colors and forms that emerged on the canvas. One evening, after class, Maria lingered in the studio, putting the finishing touches on a painting that had become particularly meaningful to her. It depicted a blooming flower emerging from a crack in the pavement, a symbol of resilience and strength. As she stepped back to admire her work, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This piece embodied her journey of transformation, a testament to her ability to thrive even in the face of adversity. "Wow, that's beautiful," a voice behind her said. Maria turned to see Sarah, one of her classmates, admiring her painting. "You have a real talent for capturing emotions. I love the symbolism in this piece." "Thank you. It means a lot to hear that," Maria replied, feeling a warm blush creep up her cheeks. "I've been using painting as a way to process everything I've been through lately." Sarah nodded, her expression understanding. "Art can be such a powerful outlet. I found it really helps me cope with my own challenges. If you ever want to collaborate or share ideas, let me know." Maria smiled, grateful for the budding friendship. She had longed for connections outside of her previous life, and here was a kindred spirit who understood the healing power of art. Over the coming weeks, their friendship deepened as they shared stories and supported each other through their creative journeys. Outside the studio, Maria continued to navigate her role as a co-parent. She found herself becoming more adept at balancing her responsibilities while prioritizing her own well-being. With David, the dynamic began to shift as they communicated more openly about their co-parenting arrangement. The tension that had once existed slowly gave way to a mutual respect, as they both prioritized their children's happiness. One afternoon, Maria and David met to discuss an upcoming weekend schedule. As they sat across from each other at a cafe, she noticed how their conversations had become more collaborative rather than contentious. "I was thinking we could plan a family outing to the amusement park this weekend," David suggested, his tone light. Maria felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "That sounds great. The kids would love that. It's important for them to have fun together," she replied, feeling a sense of warmth at the thought of creating positive memories as a family. As they planned the outing, Maria felt a sense of accomplishment. While their marriage may have ended, they were working together to ensure that their children felt loved and supported. Each successful interaction brought her closer to the realization that healing was possible, not just for herself, but for their entire family. The day of the amusement park outing arrived, and Maria woke up early, excitement bubbling within her. She spent the morning preparing a picnic for the children, packing sandwiches, snacks, and juice boxes. As they drove to the park, she could hear the laughter and chatter of her kids in the back seat, their joy infectious. Once they arrived, the atmosphere was electric. The vibrant colors of the rides and the tantalizing smell of popcorn filled the air. Maria watched as her children ran toward the entrance, their faces lit up with anticipation. It was a moment of pure joy, and she felt a sense of pride knowing she had contributed to creating this experience. Throughout the day, Maria and David worked together seamlessly. They took turns accompanying the children on rides, capturing moments with photographs and laughing together as they reminisced about their own childhood experiences. For the first time in a long while, Maria felt a sense of unity, a shared purpose in their co-parenting journey. As the sun began to set, they gathered on a grassy patch for their picnic. The children excitedly shared stories about their favorite rides while Maria and David exchanged glances, silently acknowledging the progress they had made. There was still a long road ahead, but this day felt like a turning point. After the picnic, they decided to end the day with one last ride, the Ferris wheel. As they climbed into the gondola, Maria felt a sense of exhilaration. From the top, she could see the entire park illuminated in twinkling lights, creating a magical atmosphere. The laughter of her children echoed around her, and in that moment, she realized the beauty of the life she was creating. As the Ferris wheel descended, Maria felt a sense of hope blossoming within her. She was on a journey of healing, one that would continue to evolve. With every moment spent with her children, every brushstroke on the canvas, and every honest conversation with David, She was reclaiming her identity and finding strength in vulnerability. That night, as Maria tucked her children into bed, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "I had such a great day, Mommy!" Jake exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Me too. Can we go back next weekend?" Lily chimed in, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "Of course! We'll make it a family tradition," Maria promised, feeling her heart swell with joy. As she closed the door to their rooms, she took a moment to reflect on the day. The journey ahead would still be filled with challenges, but she was ready to embrace whatever came next. With newfound strength and clarity, Maria knew that she could create a future filled with love, joy, and resilience. As spring turned into summer, Maria found herself standing at the threshold of a new chapter in her life. A chapter filled with hope, healing, and newfound strength. The days of uncertainty were gradually fading, replaced by a sense of purpose that had blossomed in her heart. She was no longer just surviving. She was learning to thrive in her independence. With each passing day, Maria continued to embrace her passion for painting. The community center where she had taken classes became a sanctuary for her creativity. Each stroke of the brush felt like a release, an expression of her emotions and a reflection of her journey. She often painted late into the night, losing herself in the colors and textures as they came to life on the canvas. One evening, as she worked on a new piece, a vibrant landscape filled with blooming flowers, Maria felt a wave of inspiration wash over her. The colors seemed to dance on the canvas, echoing the vibrancy she was beginning to feel within herself. This particular painting represented not only her journey through heartbreak, but also her resilience. It was a testament to her ability to rise from the ashes and embrace the beauty of life. That night, Maria decided to host a small gathering for her friends, inviting them to see her latest works. She set up the living room, arranging her paintings on easels and hanging a few on the walls. The atmosphere was lively as laughter filled the air, and Maria felt a surge of excitement at the thought of sharing her art with others. As her friends arrived, Maria welcomed them with open arms. "I'm so glad you could all make it," she exclaimed, feeling a sense of warmth in their presence. The room buzzed with conversation as they mingled, admiring her artwork. "Maria, these are incredible," Sarah, her classmate from the painting group, said, her eyes shining with admiration. "You've really captured so much emotion in each piece." "Thank you. It means a lot to me to hear that," Maria replied, her heart swelling with pride. As the evening progressed, she felt a renewed sense of connection with her friends, a reminder that she was not alone on this journey. As the guests admired her artwork, Maria took the opportunity to share the stories behind each piece. "This one is about reclaiming my strength after everything I've been through," she said, gesturing to the vibrant landscape. "It represents the journey of finding myself again." Her friends nodded in understanding, and Maria felt a sense of validation. Sharing her story through art allowed her to connect with others on a deeper level, and she realized how powerful vulnerability could be. As the night wore on, Maria felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't experienced in a long time. Surrounded by supportive friends, she was reminded of the importance of community during challenging times. Their encouragement filled her with motivation, igniting a spark within her to continue pursuing her dreams. After the gathering, as Maria tidied up, she felt a sense of accomplishment. Hosting the event had not only allowed her to share her art, but had also reaffirmed her connection with her friends. She realized that she could build a life rich in love and support, even outside the confines of her marriage. In the days that followed, Maria continued to immerse herself in her art and personal development. She enrolled in additional painting workshops and began to experiment with new styles and mediums. Each class brought fresh inspiration and challenged her to step outside of her comfort zone. During one of her workshops, the instructor introduced the concept of mixed media art. Intrigued, Maria decided to explore this new avenue. She began incorporating materials like fabric, photographs and textured papers into her paintings, allowing her to express her emotions in ways she had never considered before. As she experimented with mixed media, Maria found herself diving deeper into her emotions. The layering of materials mirrored her journey, each piece representing a different experience, a different feeling. With every creation, she peeled back the layers of her past, revealing the vibrant woman she was becoming. One sunny afternoon, while working on a new mixed media piece at the community center, Maria struck up a conversation with fellow artist named Jake. He was charming, with a passion for art that mirrored her own. They quickly bonded over their shared love for creativity, and as they discussed their respective journeys, Maria felt a sense of connection she hadn't experienced in years. "I've always believed that art can be a powerful way to heal," Jake said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It's amazing how creating something beautiful can help us navigate our emotions." Maria nodded, feeling invigorated by their conversation. "That's exactly how I feel. Painting has helped me process so much of what I've been through. It's like therapy for my soul," she replied, a smile breaking across her face. As the days turned into weeks, Maria and Jake continued to spend time together, exploring the local art scene and attending gallery openings. Their friendship blossomed into something more, and Maria felt a sense of excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. While she remained cautious, knowing she was still healing, she also recognized the joy that came from connecting with someone who understood her passion. However, as her relationship with Jake deepened, Maria found herself wrestling with conflicting emotions. The fear of moving on weighed heavily on her heart, and she struggled to reconcile her feelings for someone new while still processing the end of her marriage. It was a delicate balance, embracing the possibility of new love while honoring the journey that had brought her to this point. One evening, as Maria sat with Jake at a cozy cafe, they discussed their dreams and aspirations. "What do you envision for your future?" he asked, his voice warm and inviting. Maria paused, contemplating the question. "I want to continue growing as an artist. I want to create work that resonates with others and maybe even have a gallery show someday. But I also want to create a fulfilling life for my children and me," she replied, feeling a sense of clarity. "That sounds incredible. I believe you can achieve it all," Jake encouraged, his eyes shining with admiration. As their conversation flowed, Maria felt a sense of comfort in Jake's presence. For the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful about the future. She understood that healing was a journey, and while she still had moments of doubt, she was ready to embrace whatever came next. The following week, Maria found herself standing in front of her easel, working on a new piece that embodied her evolving identity. The canvas was a swirl of colors, vibrant and full of life, reflecting the journey she had taken to reclaim her happiness. As she painted, she felt a sense of liberation, the weight of the past beginning to lift as she poured her emotions onto the canvas. In that moment, Maria realized she was not only redefining her identity as an artist, but also as a woman who was capable of love and joy once more. She was learning to navigate her new life with grace and resilience, embracing the beauty of the unknown. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over her studio, Maria took a step back to admire her work. She felt a profound sense of satisfaction, a reminder of her strength and determination. This was her life, her journey, and she was ready to embrace it fully. With each passing day, Maria continued to discover new facets of herself, learning that healing is not just about moving on, but also about embracing the journey. She understood that love could come in many forms, and she was open to whatever the future held. As she looked ahead, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the path she had traveled and the new chapter that awaited her.